Hello, I'm William Jamarette,
And I'm Hattie.
and this is our podcast, HattieJo. This is What Are We Doing? And so on this episode, we are actually going to talk about my state championship that I just won. Yeah! Some of you may or may not know, but I coach basketball.
Among other things.
Yes, but the two sports I mostly coach are basketball and football. And so this year, I have moved to a new school, Archway, North Phoenix, and like I knew that I was moving like last spring, and so as I was making the transition, Aaron Fauché, who's the head coach at Lincoln, who's like I've worked with the last 2 years before I got here. He's like, hey, like I know you're moving up north or moving to a school that's a little bit closer to where you live, but like North Valley Christian Academy is looking for they're looking for an assistant coach. I know the guy, I have his number. Would you be interested? And so Coach Aaron connected us, and then we kind of talked a little bit, and like it seemed like a good.
And Coach Aaron connected you to
Randy
Coach
Walker. Yeah, so Randy Walker is the head coach at NVCA. The program has been in existence for 6 years now. And so
at NVCA.
And so
and has Coach Walker been the head coach all
yeah,
6
he's
years?
been the head coach all 6 years. So we went and grabbed coffee and talked a little bit, and it seemed like a really like good fit. And so I was like, we'll go with it. I like North Phoenix doesn't have a football team, and so I was like, well, I don't really like. I kind of thought about like going and looking other places to go coach football, but I was like, you know what, I'll just do basketball this year and see how it goes. And so we started out like with just spring and summer workouts, and we did a lot of shooting and like going over plays and stuff that we like were interested in doing, and that really like you could tell like we were a really talented team. And even like literally from the first day I showed up, I was like, wow, like we have a lot of like good players, and like we have a long like a depth that most like haven't seen across like other basketball teams. And so I was really excited, and I knew going in that like we would have like I feel like we would have a good team. I didn't know how good, but I knew we would have a good team. And so we went through the summer, like had workouts. We did a couple of like local tournaments where it's like summer league, where you just get together and you play like 2 or 3 games in a day. And then we did like this, Arizona has this huge Section 7 tournament for like mostly Arizona schools.
What does Section 7 mean?
So it's just like, basically they take all the West Coast like teams, and they have them come in and they put them in like little groups and pods, and it's literally some of the best high school basketball players across the country, and like it's basically a recruiting like for college coaches, but it's also like for high school teams to work on their like to get together and play. And we played at the State Farm Arena, and it was really cool to like be there. And we finished the weekend 2-2 from Section 7. But
and so that includes all different sizes of schools, like
yeah,
1A through
yeah,
7A?
and there's like they just try to like group you based off like talent level.
Mm-hmm.
And so like if you got like a team full of Division I prospects, they're gonna put you in a pod with like other.
Sure, but I guess my point is just because North Valley Christian Academy is 1A doesn't mean you're only playing 1A.
Oh no, it had nothing like no.
That has no bearing.
Yeah, that has no bearing. It's much more of like trying to put together in like a pod of teams that have similar talent.
Yeah, and so to be 50-50, win 2, lose 2, that seems like they did a good job matching you up with the talent, right?
And there was one team, there was one team that was like they won all 4 of their games, and they were the best team out of our group. And we played with them for a half, but like the second half they kind of ran away with it. But like it was a cool experience, and you got to like it's a great networking opportunity. It's basically like a high school like clinic where like you get to network and meet people, and so we did that, and that was kind of like the end of our summer, and then we went into like just workouts, a lot of shooting, some weightlifting, and then went into fall, and we had a couple of, they call it fall ball, where basically you get with your team and you go to a high school and you play a couple of games on a Saturday. And so that was like good for us. And it just like kept, like, we just kept building and kind of figuring out our team and like figuring out different roles and letting guys continue to develop. We would have morning workouts and guys would come in and work out. And it was just continuing to get ready for the season. And so we get into basically November, and we're starting practice, and one of our like leaders on the team, he has like a sprained foot or a sprained ankle.
Wait, so who was?
It was Austin,
Okay.
and like
I memorized all
Yeah,
the
he's
names
one
of
of our
all
captains.
the people
Yeah.
at one of the games one time because it was such a blowout, and they had a little. I was sitting directly in mid-court, and it was one of your home games. Well, it was one of the state championship games, but in the early rounds, and so the higher seeded team got to compete at home.
Yeah.
So it was technically a home game, but it was part of the state championships. Anyway, they had this cool little thing like behind where the commentator sits.
Yeah, the like scores table.
Yeah, the scores table, and it was like a rotating thing of showing the athlete their number and their name and them doing like their little thing or like they're spinning the basketball, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a static picture is what I'm trying to say. It's like a 3-second video clip. And so I'd just be like, okay, who's playing? Like, okay, like let me match up that name with that guy. And so I left that game and now I know all the names of the players. It's great. So that's why anytime he's talking about someone, I'm like, ooh, who is it? Like I want to know.
Yeah, and so we started the season off he was voted captain, and so he had like a sprained ankle from like a basketball camp that he went to, and he was out for like basically like a quarter of the season. He was out until like mid-December.
Oh man!
And he was like in a walking boot, and kind of we slowly worked him back up. But yeah, so that was kind of how our season began. Like, felt like there was like different things that would come up. People would get sick, and like it just never really kind of fully got into a rhythm. Like we were still winning games. We got off like before our first tournament, which was over Thanksgiving. We were like 5 or 6-1, and we had only lost to like a 2A team, which is a classification. We lost to a team that's in a higher classification. And it was a really like close game that like literally in the fourth quarter, I think we were down by like, it was a one possession game. So like 1 or 2 point possessions with like one possession, 1 or 2 point game with like 4 minutes to go in the game. And so we definitely had a chance to win, but they made a couple of plays that we didn't. But like from the beginning, I'm saying all this just to say like from the beginning, we had like a really good team that I felt really good about, and like you could see from all the rankings and like the way people talked, like we were kind of expected to be have a chance and we were one of the favorites to win. And so like it was good to like get that and experience that. And then we had our Christmas tournament. We had a Christmas tournament, and then we played at another Christmas tournament at Cactus High School. And so it was like just at our tournament, we lost 2 and won 1. We lost the first 2, and then we won the last game.
And again, are these tournaments within your same classification?
So most of our all of our tournaments, we played up classifications just because we're here in the Phoenix area. So like there's a bunch of different schools that like we can go play at different tournaments, and like other schools are like, oh, this is a quick drive to get here. So
right, it's kind of
there's a variety. Yeah, there's a variety of programs that can easily get to like the tournament and play in. And so like that was a good experience just to see like, hey, like these are some things that we need to work on, and these are like we're competing against schools that maybe probably like the majority of the schools we played against in our 2 like tournaments, they were like, I would say just probably a little bit more talented than we were, like just from top to bottom. So like that was a cool experience to see like, hey, these are things that we need to work on. This is like things that kind of give us trouble, and so we can prepare for like once we get to the playoffs.
And I think it's good because, you know, a lot of times you come home from these games and be like, yeah, we won by 30 points.
Yeah.
Or, you know, so I think it's good to have a mix of, you know, you don't want your entire season to be winning by 30 points.
Yeah.
Right? You need to have some of that competition that's playing against other teams that are equally matched or a little bit harder matched for you to keep growing as a team.
Yes. And I think that's definitely like the thought process in our like summertime like schedule, and like who we like tournaments that we go to in the summertime, and also like tournaments that we do over the Christmas time. And so that was good. And then we got back into January, and it was just like we continued. We had region play, went undefeated through region play. We actually played at my old school, Lincoln. We played them, and like they had a really like Aaron put a really good game plan against us, and I was really proud of like the way Lincoln played us. Like you could tell they were prepared, and they did a really good job. They had a couple of calls that went against them, and they like just struggled to score as many points as we did. But defensively, they did a good job, and like they really forced us like out of our comfort zone, I would say. And so that I was proud to see those kids play as well and as they did. And so we had senior night.
But wait, before we move on from that, your team did end up winning.
Yes, we did.
And your team knew that you used to coach at this other school.
Yes.
So guess which coach got Gatorated? This guy.
And so the night after the game, like I'm like, why? Like we go in, I say bye to Aaron and everything, and then we go in, and coach is like sitting there waiting on me. I'm like, why is he waiting on me? And so like I walk in, and then like the guys take a huge like Gatorade tub of Gatorade, and they dump it all on me, and I'm just soaking wet. And it was like we went crazy in the locker room. It was just like they knew the game was like important to me, and I wanted to win really badly. So.
Imagine that. You wanting to win couldn't be.
It's like that was kind of a situation where the guys like they played for me.
That's special.
Yeah, and so it made me feel good. And so the night after that, we played like the region. We had senior night, and it was the region championship. If we won that game, we were going to be region champs. And so we had senior night, and senior night was like. There was a packed stands, and that was like you could feel the energy in the arena, and like we played really hard, and we played really well, and shared the ball, and that was kind of a special moment for us to celebrate the seniors and to clinch the region. And so we had finished the regular season. Lost like outside of tournaments, we had lost one game.
Was that the game that I came to see?
No, I'm talking about regular season games. I'm talking about non-tournaments.
Well, I thought that I know that I came to see
you
one
came
game
to the Rancho.
that was a tournament at Cactus High School.
Yeah.
But I feel like there was one game that I came to that you lost, and you're like, man, this is like the first game we lost all season. Like.
Yeah, that was the one game.
That was the one regular season game. Yeah.
And so regular season games, we had finished. We won all of them except one, and then we got to the region tournament. We like won the region tournament, and really like the other teams, they played well and they showed us some things we hadn't seen before. But our guys adjusted really well, and we had the conference player of the year. We had the offensive player of the year in the conference, and then we had two first team, two second team, and then two honorable mentions. So
what does it mean to be first team and second team?
So all conference.
No, I know, but like, can we explain for the audience what
like
how do you get to be all conference? Is it top 8? Is it top 4?
What do you mean?
Like, how do you get to be all conference?
If
what do you have to do?
Play well during the season in conference.
No, I know, but clearly there's more than one person that's all conference, right?
So there's only 5.
So, okay, that's what I...
Yeah, so there's 5 players that make the first team all conference.
Yeah.
And the conference player, we had the conference player of the year, offensive player of the year, and then...
And conference player of the year was Cam, right? And offensive player was Bobby?
Yes. And then we had 2 on the first team, 2 on the second team. All of those are 5. And then honorable mention is just like if you receive like so many votes. So the coaches, the head coaches of each program in your conference kind of decides. They have a meeting and decide who's on those awards. And so we are...
So the coaches kind of vote for the top 5 best guys, and those would be the first team?
Yeah. Well, they get like... They do like conference. Or is
that dependent based on like points scored and...
No, it's
stats?
like they just vote on it. Yeah. And so conference season is over. We head into the playoffs, and the playoffs is a little bit different because like there's only one team playing, and so like typically for our routine, like we get there like 2 hours before our game, 2.5 hours before our game, but like the girls' game is before ours, so like the girls are playing, and so we watch the girls play, and like at halftime of the girls' game, the boys come back and like we're getting ready, and so like when you get to the playoffs, like there's no game before you, and so like there's just all of this like idle time where you're just sitting around like. And it like creates like some nervous energy because you're like, well, I don't have anything to do with my time right now. Let's think of all the things that could go wrong with this game. Like, how can we potentially lose? Like,
right. And you like, it's like the build up. You're all building up to this game, and then you get here, and then you're like, and we can't play it. We got to wait 2 hours.
Yeah.
So like all you're doing is just thinking about the game.
Yeah, like, what can we do?
Game. Yeah.
So we have like our first 2 games in the playoffs are at home.
And that's because you were number 1 seed.
Yeah, because we were the number 1 seed, and we played really well, won those 2 games. And so in the state of Arizona, what they do is like it's different depending on which division you're in, like 1A, 2A, 3A, or 4A. But for 1A, once you get to like the semifinals and the finals, they play it at another arena in Prescott. And so Friday and Saturday, we went up to Prescott, and the first round we have Friday, and we go up to Prescott, and the game was supposed to start at 5:30. The game was supposed to start at 7:30. Yeah, the game was supposed to start at 7:30, but it didn't end up starting until like 8:45, like 9. And so we like get there. We got there like 4. And so we were just kind of sitting around, and luckily
4 until 8:45.
And we ate lunch. We ate at 4, and so like an hour of that was eating, and then we went up to the stadium, and we were the higher seed, so we played the second game. And so the first game was.
Did you at least get to watch the first game?
Yeah, we got to watch all of the first game. So it was between St. David and Babo. And they were 2 teams that were ranked. There was 2 teams during the whole season that kind of separated themselves from everyone else, and that was us and St. David. And I think like the 2 of us were predicted to be the 2 teams that met in the state championship. Like literally from the beginning of the season, we were the 2 teams that were predicted to meet in the state championship. And then there was like another group of like Hayden, El Cap, and Babo, who had really good seasons. And like if somebody had said, hey, one of those 3 teams would be in the state championship, like it wouldn't have been like a shocker. Like
yeah, it's totally believable.
it was
like
believable.
The facts are.
Yeah, they're really good teams. They're just not the 2 favorites. And so we got to watch St. David and Bobo play, and like Bobo just took it to them like from the get-go. Like they played really well. They were hitting shots. It was like, oh man, like they're really like Bobo's a really good team. And so we watched them play. Bobo, like pretty much they were dominating the whole game, and then the last like 4 minutes, St. David kind of had a little comeback and like made the game interesting, but Bobo held on at the end. And so then we had our game, and
against El Capitan.
El Capitan. And so a little backstory about El Capitan. They're like on the border of like Arizona and Utah. And so like we had actually went up there when I was coaching football at Lincoln. We went up there, and it's
the
like
backpack story.
No, this is not the backpack story. Yeah, this is not the backpack story, or maybe it is. Oh, you know what? I think it is the backpack story, because I drove we took a bus all the way up to El Capitan because it's like literally like
at the border with
drive.
Utah. Yeah, it's far away.
It's really far away, and so we took a bus up there. We left at like 9 a.m. in the morning for like 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock football game. And so we get there. We ended up losing the game, but it was a competitive game, and we came back. And so I had already been up there before and knew that it was a far drive for them. And so we're watching them warm up. This is for basketball now. And we're watching them warm up, and Coach Grant, who's the other assistant coach, we're looking at each other and we're like, they look really athletic. Like they had guys that were dunking, like easily getting up the middle of the rim. Like size wise, like they were probably a bigger and longer team than we were. Like from like player 1 all the way to the end. And I was like, this is not what we were expecting when we were watching tape. Like we're gonna have to play well to like win this game. And like it definitely created like some like all season long we've been playing well, but we've been beating teams pretty handedly.
So wait, you went up and played this team earlier in the season?
No, we played it, or I'm talking about in football. We went up there. And when I was at Lincoln.
Okay, so that's how you had heard of this school.
Yeah.
But you hadn't known anything about the basketball team of that school until the night before the championship.
Or we had like that earlier that week we had gotten some tape.
Oh, okay. So you're doing your scouting.
Yeah, we were doing scouting.
Okay, so it wasn't until within 5 days.
Yeah, it wasn't until the day of that we actually saw them in person.
Got it.
And we were like, it's like, they're a lot taller than
It's funny. I'm sorry I'm yawning out this whole time. It's funny that you mentioned that because, so granted, I haven't been to as many games as you have, obviously.
Yeah.
I went to that one regular season game that you guys lost.
Mm.
I went to that one tournament game at Cactus that you guys did amazing and you won that game.
Yes.
That was the time that I was like, oh my God, number 20 is your best player. Or like, he was on fire. Like Bobby was on fire.
He was
game.
playing.
Like,
he played really well.
Bucket threes, like all the time. Like he probably scored like 30 points that game.
Yeah. I think it was like high 20s. I think he had like 20.
It was a ridiculous number. Anyway, that's besides the point. And then I had gone to the 2 state championship games that were at NVCA.
Yeah.
And then the next 2 games I had gone to were up in Prescott.
Yeah.
Right? But we're at the first one, so we don't know that we're guaranteed to the second one, right? And I go there, and I'm with Coach Garvin's girlfriend, Greta, and she and I kind of look at each other, and we're like, we haven't been to all the games, but this team certainly looks way more matched to us than any of the other teams we've seen so far. Like,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, we got the same. Because to set the stage a little bit here, I don't know why they were so behind, but they had told us all, like, the game's going to start at 7:30. It doesn't start till 8:45. So we're all there at 7:30.
Yeah.
And you did give me forewarning a little bit. So I got there at maybe like 8. Mm-hmm. But I still got to see the entire second half
of the
game before, so I could actually see how the kids are playing. And I'm like, yeah, wow, you know, this is a really good team, right? And they're just like, they are really dominating the team they're playing.
Are you talking about Baba, the game before us?
So the night before.
Yeah, Baba, the team we played in the state championship.
Oh, I'm getting confused. Yeah, I was talking about Baba. But no, because we didn't. So yeah, I guess I am getting myself a little confused.
So the game before us was Baba.
That was Baba's team. But they also were like dominating that team.
Yes, they were dominating, and then at the end of the game.
Yes, and so that was, okay, that's where this, okay, now I'm getting my head screwed on straight again. So they're dominating, and we're kind of looking at each other like, that's the team we're going to play tomorrow. Like, we better be, like, we can beat them, but, like, we got to be on our game. Like, you know, we've been to some of these games where we're not really playing our best, and we still win by 10 points. Like, we can't be doing that. Like, we need to be doing our best, and then it'll be fine, but, like, we got to be doing our best, right? And so then we're watching the game that's actually being played, and it starts out normal, right? And this is against the El Capitan.
Yes.
But Greta and I had turned to each other and looked at each other and we're like, this team is like much bigger, you know, and like much more matched, like it seems to our team. Like, whereas usually I feel like we have the size advantage, we have a speed advantage, like skill advantage, right? Thank God we got off to, like, in the first 2-3 minutes, a huge lead.
Yeah.
Because the entire game, it was like a 12-point lead or something.
Yeah.
The entire rest of the game, that lead was just going away. I think there was a point where we were within one.
They came within like 2 points.
Yes. And then we're all just like, and at this point, it's towards the end of the fourth quarter. There's like 3 or 4 minutes left in the entire game, and we're like, now it's neck and neck. We're at like a 1-possession game right now.
Yes.
Like, oh my goodness. Like, what's, you know, we're all, the stands, it was really fun. You know, all the fans were like really yelling and getting into it, and we were all invested, and it was an exciting game.
Yeah. And like Coach Grant and I, like, we, like, in the warm-ups, we're like, hey, this team, they have some athletes and they look pretty good. Like, based off what we saw on tape, they were much better than what we had saw. And so, like, and they were much longer. And so we get into the game and we get off to like a blazing start, like you said. But we just kept making like little mistakes on defense where like we're a pressing team. And so we press full court, like the whole length of the court, like we're up pressuring them. And so like they had a really good plan for us. And so they would get the ball past half court, and then like because it's kind of like scrambled, like we would give up a 3-pointer, or like they would get an easy layup, and it's like we got to get matched up. And so like they, like, honestly, like El Cap was probably the best. Like if I were them, I would be upset that like they weren't a higher seed.
Yeah, that game, the Friday night wasn't the final championship game.
Yeah.
Because that was a much more well-matched. And I felt like they were also just really prepared. Kind of like you're talking about. Like, they had done their homework on how do we strategize to go against this team.
Yeah.
You know, and it was clear that they were working together as a team. They were on it. They were prepared, you know, all that stuff. And
that definitely makes a difference because, like, we played the Saturday before. And so they had, like, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to prepare. And then we play on Friday. So it makes sense that they would be, like, really prepared. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
But, yeah, so we won, like, on Friday. And, like, it was the best, like our guys really, like, hey, we got to get stops on defense. Like, they were talking. You could tell they were, like, invested and really wanted it. And so I was telling Coach Grant this, like, I feel like Bobby in that game, he was like, we're not going to lose this game. Like, he was like,
he wasn't going to let it happen.
Or he wasn't going to let it
happen. He wanted it the most, some might say.
I wouldn't say he wanted it, and I think the other team wanted it too. He just, like, he went out and he made plays to,
I'm just
like,
joking.
Yeah. Well, he went out and made plays to make it happen.
He did make a lot of plays. And one thing that, just a quick side note, made me feel better just now to hear you say, like, oh, we were watching tape of El Capitan and we did not realize how big they are. You know, I'm so used to watching college ball and watching it literally at the court. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am underneath the basket, basically, like 2 feet behind, but, front row type thing. I could reach out and touch people if I wanted to. And college players are large individuals.
Yeah.
They're very tall, very long, and they're growing into their muscle mass too. So they're just like big guys. So I'm in the stands and I'm watching these high schoolers and I'm like, oh, they look so little, like these little, ha 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 ha, how funny is that? Then we go to the team dinner at Coach Walker's house, and every single one of them is taller than me. That's definitely not how it looked from in the stands. Like I just look, and I guess part of it is also they seem so young. So here in my mind, I'm thinking they're like these young kids, and then I get around them, and even like the one that's the shortest on the team by far, right? Even though he's like the quickest, he is so speedy, and he was making so many steals and getting to the basket before anyone else. He's very fast. Anyway, point is, he looks shorter than the rest. He's as tall, if not taller, than I am.
Yeah.
Right? But it doesn't seem that way from the...
Out there,
and it doesn't seem that way to someone in the stands. So I was feeling really embarrassed of like, oh my God, like I totally, I'm sitting here thinking these are like little kids and they're,
a lot longer and taller.
And when it sounds kind of dumb because when I think about it, I'm like, I reached my full height in like sophomore, junior year in high school too. Like I imagine generally males keep growing a little bit longer after that, right? Like females reach their final height sooner in age than males do. But it's not like in high school you're walking around with a bunch of like smaller guys. Like generally by high school they've gotten at least taller than the average female. So I don't know why I'm having this conception. But it does make me feel a little bit better to hear that you also misjudged like the size of these kids. El Cap. So I just thank you for making me feel better.
Yeah. And like we played against El Cap. They were a really good team.
They were really good. Hats off to them, honestly.
They like really pushed us and like did a good job. And so we win Saturday, we win Friday, and then we drive back because Prescott's only like an hour away, and most of the team gets back like after midnight, gets in their beds, and so get some sleep. It's a Saturday, so they don't have to get up like early for anything. We go to we watch a little tape on Bobo just to get kind of like a game plan because there's not really,
being the coaching staff.
Yeah,
right?
we being the coaching staff, and there's not really much you can change after like you got less than 24 hours before the next game, so there wasn't like wholesale changes. You just kind of get a feel for what they like to do and who their main players are. And
kind of like it's one of those things too where you're just reassuring your anxieties that you've done everything in your power.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's not like you get there and you're like, if only we had watched tape, even though who knows how much difference it really made. But if it emotionally calms you down, like that's worth it in and of itself.
And so like we get up to the arena and like they have like it's a little bit longer because it's like they have the girls game before us, and so the girls they do like championship ceremony afterwards, and they allow you to cut the nets down for your team, and so they have to replace the nets before we play, and so like after the game, like it's a longer break.
So again, it was like it's gonna start at 5:30, and it didn't. It was starting until what, 6:15, 6:30 almost.
Yeah, it didn't start till like 6 because I feel like it probably didn't start till like 6, and the game was supposed to start at
5:30. I thought there was like a 45 minute delay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is, it was delayed again. Not quite as egregiously as the night before. Yeah.
And so we get there, Which
I don't want to, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm not trying to say that, I take anything away from the girls' team. Like, any championship winning team should have their moment to, do all that stuff.
Well, and I think it goes to...
how have we not done this before? Like, is this the first time? Like...
Yeah, and I think like the AIA could probably do like a better job of like just spacing the games. Like instead of like an hour and a half or an hour and a half, like 2 hours, and like make it like flexible so that like as long as they get like an 18-minute 20-minute warm up, then like, hey, maybe the next game can start before, because I would imagine that some of the playoff games become blowouts. And so like if it's a blowout in the fourth quarter, it's a running clock. And so if the game before ends at like 5 and the next game isn't supposed to start until 5:30, like do you want that game to like, if the game ends at 5, so the game starts at 4, right? If we give a 2-hour window, if the game starts at 4 and there's a blowout, well, that game is going to end at 5. Mm-hmm. And so now we have until 6 o'clock where the next team is expecting to play.
Totally fine. 5:30. Totally fine. Because here's what happened otherwise, right? You have the staff at the venue have their first game at 4 or whatever, blah, 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 blah. The last game's supposed to be at 7:30, done by 9:30. They can clean up and get out of there by 10. Now it doesn't even start until 8:45. So now it's not even done until 10:15.
But they wouldn't plan for it. Like, they don't plan for it to start.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, I feel like if you have some gaps in between that generally get used, but only sometimes don't get used, there's like a 10 to 20% chance you could have been a little more efficient with time. However, the way it is now, it's like an 80% chance that you're going to be behind. And I feel like everybody, the people working at the venue, like all this stuff, would much rather have like, oh, 20% of the time I get to leave early, as opposed to the majority of the time I have to stay later than I expected to stay.
Yeah, but I would imagine that like it's probably the other way. 80% of the time they leave early because games are turned into blowouts, as opposed to like, this is, I guess it was 2 days in a row that it went over, but I don't know. Like, I would, if I was the AIA, I think I would give like each game gets like a 2-hour like window. Mm-hmm. But like I do now that I've sit down and thought about it, I do understand why they have like an hour and a half increments, because the more playoff games are blowouts that have a running fourth quarter like.
And that really does make a difference on how fast the total game is. And I guess, I mean, on one hand, I understand that, but as a spectator and as a parent, I'd be really pretty irritated if it's like I brought my like 3 little kids here because I'm expecting it to start at 5:30 or whatever, and now I have to sit around for an hour and a half. I don't know. I feel like that's a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like
But I can see the other side too, because being more efficient, that's generally my favorite thing in the entire world. So, like, I understand. Anyway, then we're getting on a tangent away from the actual basketball.
Yeah. And so we have the state championship game on Saturday. We made one like big change. Like, we, instead of pressing full court, we did half court, just because like playing back-to-back days and the court was a little bit longer, and so there was a lot of running. Like, and it also allowed us to like play our main guys a little bit more and kind of shorten our rotation a little bit, so that we could keep our most skilled players on the court longer.
Right.
And so we ended up winning. I think we won by 20. I think it was 36-56. And it's like, it was a great team win. Like, we had some guys show up that like we were like, that hadn't played well the night before. And I was just like, I was really happy and like proud to celebrate, and we got a championship photo together.
We did.
And so it was overall, it was a great season that really like started when Aaron like said, hey, would you be interested in working at NVCA? And I was literally like, I was in the car and I was like, why is he calling me? He's like, yeah, would you be interested in working? So we had a really good season, and I expect to be back. Like, I'm sure we'll like have some coaches evaluations. We'll see if they'll have me back, and I think we'll have a really good team coming back next year. We had 3 seniors that were losing, but like we have a really good core of juniors that are coming back. The majority of our team was juniors. And so we have a really good class of juniors coming back, and
Bobby's a sophomore, right? So
yeah, so he'll be a junior next year, and
So sidebar on this whole Bobby situation. So I was sitting with Greta, who's Grant Garvin, the other assistant coach, his girlfriend, and their two daughters. And the two daughters are also high school age, and the two daughters are obsessed with Bobby. Like, everything was Bobby, 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 Bobby. So it was just kind of funny. That's why I know he's a sophomore.
Well, so. How do you put people's business out in the streets? Like, thanks a lot, Hattie.
It's hilarious.
But, like, we feel like in theory,
they don't even go to the school. Like, I'm like, how do you even know this person? Like,
well, I'm not even gonna get into it. But we have a really I like our team coming back next year, and it'll be interesting to see just how we continue to grow and get better as a team, and because it will be a different dynamic with losing those three seniors that brought a lot of leadership, and so we are state champs. I woke up this morning, it's like, I'm a state champ. So it's if you include high school, this is 1, 2, 3. It's my 4th high school state championship. So
very nice. In a different sport, even.
Yeah.
Now
so there's three sports.
Three sports.
Band. Band, football, and basketball. And so keep going. See if we can add any more.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is our podcast. State champs, baby.
Go NVCA.
Deuces.